Done.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Now let's officially start. We have 23 participants. Thank you so much, everybody who's joined. I am so thrilled that we're going to do something together and, try spend some time as we planned, end of March, early April, because that's what we miss the most, right? The hallway track, hanging out with each other, listening to the key project updates, things like that. So I'm glad we are all on the same page here. I appreciate everybody putting their information in the attendees list. But I want to bring everyone up to date on where I am at in the conversation so far. So I just by chance, but actually, with inspiration from Melissa, who also works at GitLab, who might be on the call.
I'm here. Hi.
Yay.
Hi to everyone I know.
I just put a tweet out asking folks if people had interest in doing a virtual cloud native hangout, and got 400 votes almost. Some people thought it was a lame idea, but majority thought it was awesome. And since then, I had a chance to talk with Caitlin Barnard, who used to work at CNCF and now works at Kong. Caitlin, are you there?
Yep, I'm here. Hello, everyone.
And Caitlin was very nice and offered her support to plan the event, do all the the heavy lifting with me on this, which I greatly appreciate. The same happened with Matt Baldwin. Him and I were supposed to catch up just generally for a coffee chat on Zoom, and we started discussing the content that would be useful for people if we did something like this. So we have some preliminary ideas that we come together with. The key thoughts we had was, it's very important to keep up to date with what's happening with the important projects in CNCF right now. That's just, many of us are waiting on news, many of us want to hear from the project maintainers, etc. And the other thing we thought was, it would be really cool to hear what's the vision for CNCF moving forward, and hearing from folks like Chris Anischek might be really nice on the incoming projects, things like that. So that's kind of the state we were at. We didn't think it would be that exciting to do like vendor talks and stuff as of now, but this is why this meeting is happening. Let's discuss and see what other people want. So that's kind of where we're at. One thing that I think would be good is to iron out everything we need to by March 16th, and announce things, announce like on a landing page, just so that people know it's coming, and then we can work towards execution. So I know that was a lot of talking, sorry about that. Does anyone wanna, I know a lot of you had thoughts on Twitter. Does generally this sound good, or do you wanna add anything to the direction this is taking based on what I just said?
Do you have a date? Because I'm from the Contributor Summit organization team, and we will at least do part of the Contributor Summit. And I don't know if you want to have an overlap or not.
My personal idea, thank you for bringing that up, is that it would be amazing to overlap with, like, connect with the Contributor Summit. You're going to do it online, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it can be online. Both the new contributor workshop and the current Contributor Summit, at least the ones that would still like to present virtually because they have maybe a topic that is urgent to talk about, let's say.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're thinking of doing the new contributor workshop on a different day, just to enable basically the people who teach the workshop to also participate in current contributors, because they are usually current contributors.
Right, that makes sense. And for the Contributor Summit, if like general attendees who are interested in this type of topics, can they listen in as well? Is that open?
I do think we were talking about opening it up. I would have to ask again, but I think that was something that we were thinking about, to just say, okay, now we don't have any space limitations. We might just be able to open it up. Maybe not like the face-to-face or the SIG meetings that really need interaction, but at least the presentations. Yeah.
Personally, I think that'd be really cool. And we can help by the same infrastructure can work for the Contributor Summit and this Cloud Native virtual event. So hopefully that's like a value add for you. but I would love to join forces. Does anybody have any concerns on that, or like wants to build upon that?
No, what's the date of the contributor summit?
It was the 0 day, and I think we will keep it on that. So that would be, was it 30th?
29th, or is it the 30th?
30th, yeah, Monday. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. 30th on Monday. And is it a full day thing or half day?
It used to be a full day thing. I'm not sure if we can still fill a full day. So I would imagine it only being half a day, at least the current contributor track.
Yeah.
New contributor workshop is pretty much a full day, I think.
Got it. That, in my opinion, and folks, please chime in, would be really cool. Like half day is Focus Contributor Summit, and that's because anybody can attend. That's a great way for you to attract maybe new contributors, and then funnel them to the new contributor workshop. And then the like second half of the day, or maybe the first half, whichever works out, can be, it opens out into like listening to the project updates and like talking to each other somehow. In my dream, this is less of people, even though it's online, like multiple people can talk. We'll have to figure out the technology, I guess. But it would be nice to have some semblance of hallway track. Perhaps we could
there
do
was
it
some
like,
people talking about how to facilitate hallway tracks, maybe with Zoom breakout rooms or something. And I guess someone was posting something about that on Twitter. Let me check if I can find that again. There was, there was someone on Twitter telling their experience with breakout rooms and facilitating.
From my experience, this tends to not work too well. It needs good moderation and also someone trying to keep the topics going, because else it kind of tends to die down. So I'm not saying that that shouldn't be an option. I'm just saying it needs to be like marked as experimental, and we will try this, because if it turns out to not be good, then the wording and the like announcement of how this could be perceived is probably relatively important. So people aren't disappointed when it's not like totally awesome and not like as in person. Because let's face it, that's not what it's going to be. And
Should we?
a lot more sluggish.
Would an idea be to have the CNCF ambassadors moderate those hallway track sessions to drive, kind of keep the conversation going and to seed things and kind of make sure there's no chaos?
I think it's less about the specific people, more about that it happens and that it's planned for.
Okay.
That makes sense. Since we have only a 30-minute call set up, I'm thinking as we talk through things, we assign directly responsible individuals. So Richie, I don't want to like tell, you can totally say no, but what are your thoughts on leading how we do this hallway track? And technology, you'll get support, like collaboration with like Caitlin, myself, and everybody will.
Technology is not the problem.
But like vision.
We're currently also looking how and what to do with my Grafana hat on. So I can't commit on the time and such, but like interest, yes. But I would need to look at the details. But generally speaking, sounds reasonable.
Okay, so maybe I can ping you after to chat if you can, take the lead on thinking through the hallway track. And we can add in more people. If anybody else is interested, by the way, folks, in the notes section, put in your name. And then it can become like a subgroup that's working on that.
So can I give you guys a little bit of a, so I'm Chris, we do Rejects conference, and we're doing a virtual Rejects. And that's, we're planning on doing that on the 1st. And so what we decided on doing as far as technology-wise is using Zoom, but that only for like moderators and people giving talks, and then you can connect that to YouTube, it seems, if you have their paid account. And so using that as the main platform by which people access it. It's a bit different, but we just found that Zoom, it might not be manageable for large crowds because we don't have experience in that. Maybe you guys do. Another thing we're doing is trying to use the I mean, because now it's a virtual event, we're trying to use the async nature of that, okay, there's going to be a lot of people who just watch it later if they're recorded. And we're doing a follow the sun kind of thing where we start in Asia, India, and we basically follow and hand over moderation all the way to the Pacific US, so that we kind of embrace the different platform now that we have.
Yeah. I think one way to kind of focus this down to like a small narrow thing that we can work on is, if Rejects is doing something on the 1st, Contributor Summit's on the 30th, I think we should start with like how long should this last? What should the agenda look like? And what I don't want to do is I don't want to collide with Contributor Summit. I don't want to collide with what Chris is doing with Rejects either.
Right.
I want to be complementary to that.
Well, I've kind of because there's other things going on also. There's A2IQ, and I'm sure other people are talking about other things. So I kind of have leaned toward just embrace the chaos. And if things overlap, that's okay. It's an async thing. People can just click another button and then they're in another. And so what we're trying to do, actually, I started an awesome virtual cloud native events repo, so we can basically list all these. There's probably a way to do that more sophisticatedly, but I've kind of leaned towards just it's okay if these things overlap and everything. Just embrace it, and so we don't. I just wanted to say that's our stand on this right now.
Okay.
Yeah, specific to the Contributor Summit, I think it would make sense to be like this event is together, like it's a together thing, if that's all right. And on that point, Pooja, I wanted to put you as the lead on that since you're already planning it anyway.
Yeah,
so,
we're anyway on that, and I'll be kind of your connection point to that, because as Chris also mentioned, I'm seeing like kind of so many events popping up, and I hope we can somehow at least have an umbrella somehow to not confuse people and say like, so where's like the after show parties at QCon usually, like where should I be at, right?
I know.
I wouldn't want this to end in like a fight between conferences, but I also don't think an overlap is too big of a problem. People can switch and choose. And
Awesome. One thing tell me what others feel, but I think at least the graduated projects, we should definitely have some kind of update or coffee, like online coffee chat with some key maintainers. I see Richie here from Prometheus, for example. And I know Matt Klein said if he's not on vacation, he will definitely help. And there are others I can talk to, but I could take the responsibility to connect with the graduated project leaders and make sure that they will come and chat with us about the latest and greatest. Is that of interest to people?
I'd be interested in that.
Okay.
So with both the Prometheus and Open Metrics head on, that's part of the planning already anyway. No matter which form, no matter which envelope, but with both Prometheus and Open Metrics, we are planning to do exactly this.
Perfect. So
Priyanka, I can help you with that too, reaching out to the leaders.
Amazing. So, okay, Priyanka, Matt, B, and Richie. Okay, and so graduateds are like the no-brainer. Are there other projects, like if other projects are able to come by, wanting to come by, what's our take on that?
I always enjoy the SIG updates. I think that there's been a tradition, at least, that where there's an update from the different SIGs on what's happened since the last QCon. I think that's another kind of really interesting community piece of content.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I am not as plugged in as I should be in the SIGs. Are you plugged in? Is that something you could help with, bringing the right people?
Yeah, I can always reach out. Yeah, I know how to
I can help too.
find those folks. Between Matt and I think.
I would also suggest not just the SIGs, but some of the working groups that are spinning up now, because those are some of the more interesting things right now. Like the air-gapped working group would be neat to get a read on where that's going to head. The Apple group as well. Yeah.
Okay, so that's another interesting point. Now, one thing that I would love to figure out as we go along, and that's not necessarily needs to be done by the 16th, is how do we present these conversations so that it's not just boring someone talking at a screen? So, but that I think we can figure out post 16th even. Like, I think that's not a blocker, right? To get to, because my concern is I don't think it'll be fun if it's like, okay, time for graduated projects, person 1, person 2, person 3, time for SIGs. That I think would just be kind of meh. If we can maybe like connect like 2 SIGs together and have 2 people like conversing. I'm just like ideating here. Sorry if it's too out there.
Maybe what we could do is group SIGs together and do moderated sessions where we talk about stuff with them, where we have very purpose, like, again, we can leverage the CNCF ambassadors to drive conversation with the SIG leaders. But like, there's, you know, we can have groups of them and talk to them as like, you know, maybe a moderated panel of some sort.
Ooh, yeah.
I wanted to volunteer Alex Williams to moderate as well. That was something he's willing to do.
Alex Williams of the News Tech. He's really fun.
Yeah.
I mean, sorry. That was awkward of me. Yes, I love that.
Those of us who know Alex know what you mean.
And one more thing I wanted to add, I think it would be interesting to hear from Chris Aniszczyk and members from the TOC about what are the trends they want to look at, what are the projects they are seeing come in, what do people think?
I mean, what we could do is have Chris kick it off with like a mini keynote type of thing. Do we have any proper CNCF employees on the call right now?
I don't.
Well, I'm actually in Tahoe right now, and quite a few of them are here, so I can talk to them this afternoon if you'd like.
Tahoe, man. All right.
Yeah,
Cool.
that's all. Yeah, no one's here, but we do
Someone's
have their
got to
blessing.
do it, I guess, huh?
Yeah, someone's got to go
take
to
one for
Tahoe.
the team.
Yeah.
But for the team. No, that would be really nice. Thank you, Chris. And I think that, what was I going to say? Dang it. Yeah, I did want to just mention that we have Dan and Chris's blessing. I got their email response when I sent out the first one. And all they said is don't use the word Kubernetes and KubeCon in the title, and don't market it as some kind of replacement, which obviously it's not. So we just need to be cognizant of that. Caitlin and I were going to work on the landing page. GitLab was going to help me with resources. So yay, GitLab. And so we'll make sure that the wording is appropriate. Excuse me.
Yeah,
Cool.
with regard to trademark and stuff, the first comment when we launched Rejects, the first comment we got from Dan was, "Hey, that was great. We don't have to sue you. You didn't infringe on anything." It was kind of a joke, but half a joke, I think.
Don't worry, it takes a lot to get sued.
Joke-ish.
There's actually one question which is on my bucket list for this call, and which ties into this nicely. KubeCon or Cloud Native Con, they have a requirement that all talks need to be new, which obviously is already kind of eased up for all the graduated projects and other projects which are doing their 101 and or deep dives. But this is an actual risk. Like if we have content which is supposed to be presented at KubeCon, but then is already presented in the virtual thing, but KubeCon doesn't ease up on that requirement, we might actually end up kicking people who give a remote talk out of KubeCon, not by design, but by accident. So this is something which should be taken back to the governing board, back to Linux Foundation, to actually clear that one up.
I can take the lead on that.
That's what I was going for.
Yes, sir. No, it makes sense. I
would say as Priyanka, you were kind of explaining you're focusing rather on updates and the stuff that is usually either hallways or keynotes, and it's kind of like day to day. So I would suppose it's less of an issue, but better be safe there, I guess.
No, the problem is like the usual conference-driven development where you submit a talk and then you get accepted and then you have to actually code the stuff which you offer to talk about. That's not too much of an issue. Of course, you can just reschedule and do this a few months after. But the stuff which is already in the pipeline, the stuff which is already being worked on, which is non-trivial, sometimes those talks are already like, or the features are already planned exactly for KubeCon and already on track. And you can't just drop that development. And I know of several cases where people are in that situation, that they're basically on track to finish by KubeCon, for KubeCon, and can't really reschedule. And if they then wait half a year with talking about it, it's old news and no one cares anymore.
Right.
So that is kind of not good. Yeah.
Okay, so but what I'm going to ask the CNCF LF people is, there may be overlap in content that that project leaders discuss in this virtual session. It would be ideal if they can, if they present that again in the KubeCon, it's okay, but we just need guidance on that, right? That's the part I'm focusing on.
Yeah, basically. Like if we only have project updates anyway, then it's kind of free pass, because projects, like especially the 101, are usually the same year over year, because that doesn't change, and that directly violates this requirement of KubeCon, but for good reason and with implicit acceptance by CNCF. But anything more in depth than the 101s is running the risk of falling afoul.
Yeah, and my hope, and please chime in, people, is that we can actually like have more of the in-depth conversations, because I'm imagining the people who come online, join us online, would already have the basic interest in the cloud native technologies, and hopefully they can learn something new and session of something unique. But I'm cool with people wanting to do one-on-one stuff, 101 stuff too, if that's what works for their project. Okay, we have 5 minutes left, barely. And so we have some next step, owners listed. So what I'm gonna do is send a follow-up email to everybody who's entered their information here in the attendees list with here's who's doing what and what needs to be done by when. Caitlin might help me with it, so email will come from somebody. And then there is there's the question around identity that's being discussed right now. Should we align on that, and that's the final thing we agree on? Because then we won't have time anyway.
Is identity the name, or what do you mean?
I think, yeah, just what do we call it?
Okay.
I like what Noah dropped in, Cloud Native Community Days.
Cloud Native Community, yeah, sure.
Cloud Hallways is actually pretty good too.
Cloud Hallways is pretty funny.
Yeah.
But I do want to give a hat tip to hey, the Contributor Summit people are also here. Because it's the same event now, right? No, Pooja?
Yeah, I don't know what day were you thinking? I don't know, because I mean we're I guess we're fixed with Contributor Summit. We're just doing it. We're just reshuffling our schedules, but yeah, if
that's what it really is.
The same way. Yeah.
I mean, this is a really terrible name. I'm very bad at naming. Some people from GitLab
naming is hard.
Oh, I just sent it to only
Summit.
I was saying this one. Sorry, I sent it just to one person by mistake. Contributors. I mean, that's descriptive.
Yeah.
Are we okay with that?
One thing we did with rejects, and we ended up just calling it virtual rejects, which was simple, but kind of we just brainstormed a bunch of ideas out and then did a poll of the team to get feedback. So Condorcet poll can kind of get a good way of doing it if we get a whole load of names.
I like that. Caitlin, do you think you might be able to own running a poll?
Yep, that sounds good.
Okay, and just to clarify, when we say poll, people are suggesting names and then voting on them.
Yeah, I was going to say it's two phases. One is we need to do the brainstorm, get a list of 20, 30 names, whatever it is, or 5, that some set of names, and then run the poll to get people to give their prioritized feedback, and then the Condorcet thing just kind of pulls that into kind of a consolidated list.
Okay, to me that sounds amazing. Caitlin, is it okay for you to be the directly responsible individual for that?
Yep.
Should we just all add suggestions into this doc for the next couple of hours and call it done at the end of maybe like the next 24 hours, we'll just kind of brainstorm into this doc, and then at some point we have to cut the time and say, okay, now we'll create the poll out of this list.
Yeah, I think that sounds good. Caitlin, sound good?
Yeah, I think by whatever time we send out the follow-up email would be ideal, so we can include it in that email.
One thing that we talked about in the contributor summit, which you want to also maybe talk about, would be a time zone. Like, do you want to stick to original time zone of Europe, or do you want to go like Chris and Andy did, basically worldwide, or do you want to move it somewhere that a few time zones can participate at the same time without waking up at like 3 a.m.
I like follow the sun. You know, I really like how Chris is doing it. I like that idea. That's me. I don't know how others.
So how would that? I actually don't understand how we follow the sun. Like, we start when it's morning in east, like the east is what does that mean? Because like you can't keep repeating the content, right? Like,
No, we plan on a single track, one after the other, and basically hand off moderation as we go with like a couple hour or an hour or two for each moderator.
Oh, so speakers from different time zones, basically.
Yeah. Try to allocate that correctly so people can have normal work days. Yeah.
That also doesn't exclude necessarily repeating the content. So if something happens early in the day in an EU time zone, it can happen later in the day in PST. That's fine.
Yeah. Well, if that person could give that call still, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm still wrapping my head around it. But so, what would that mean for us? Like, for this event? Like, when would we start?
It would depend if we're coordinating with the community. Like what did you plan on doing for had you come up with a time frame on the 30th for the contributor summit, or?
Oh yeah.
I need to jump into the next call. Sorry.
No worries.
I
think with contributor summit we said we're sticking to the
Anyone can go
original
over
time zone.
Gotcha.
But I'm not 100% sure anymore because like there was a lot of back and forth in chats and different places, so I need to check that definitely.
Perhaps
if we're following the sun, it doesn't really matter where we decide the day starts. I mean, when we know who our speakers are, it's like we start the day with them and just move along with our speakers. And the lineup is based on time zone, I guess.
Exactly. I was thinking the same thing.
Okay, that makes sense. Yes. I think this one piece, maybe since we're collabing with the contributor summit, if there's like constraints on your end, sorry, I don't know what happened. Yeah, if there are constraints on your end, Pooja, about like, oh, we definitely need to go from time A to time B, we can kind of work around it.
Yeah, I'll get back on that.
Okay.
Get back on that.
Perfect. Cool. Okay. Any parting words from anyone?
Thank you for
All right. Yes.
Yeah, thanks for putting it together.
Absolutely. And I'll have Caitlin would finalize the naming poll thingy. And then tomorrow, maybe I should send out the email following up with DRIs because that will be done by then. And then we'll be on track to announce on the 16th. Awesome. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Go KubeCon, go Cloud Native. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.